I know when an offensive line is good because I know some of their names. I don't know anybody on Tennessee. Well, no, I know left tackle for Tennessee, but Miami's O-line, I don't know a lot of the players.
Right.
I got to tell you something. To me, my overarching theme is there was mistakes on both sides. There was good officiating, not so good. Philadelphia's O-line was the difference in the game to me.
They were good. By the way, good morning, Kristine.
Thank you. Good morning.
It's good to see you.
You too.
Absolutely, Colin. You look at how they're built. Now, remember, this is an offensive line that lost a Hall of Fame left tackle in Jason Peters.
Yeah, no, he's a Hall of Famer. He will be a Hall of Famer.
He's the best left tackle in football, 14 years in, and he is phenomenal. Lost him. But Kelsey's a Pro Bowl player. Lane Johnson is a Pro Bowl player.
And they're athletic, by the way.
Player.
Their guards pull. They're athletic.
Brooks at the right guard position, a really good player. Steve Wisniewski is his uncle. You know, he's one of the best that's ever played the game, was a former Raider. So, I mean, and that kid can play as well, real technician. So, yeah, they're phenomenal up front, what they're able to accomplish, the way they did that. And you mentioned, they didn't blitz a whole lot. Because every time they blitzed on the very first play of the game. They brought a slot corner. Cat corner off the slot, they picked it up, and they did it several other times, and every time they blitzed, they got gutted. I mean, every time they blitzed, the offensive line picked it up, and Nick Foles just dished the ball. And Zach Ertz touchdown was off a blitz. Whoop, touchdown. I mean, so all those things that they were able to accomplish in that game.
Third and fourth down, they were fantastic.
Here's the other thing. It's amazing how aggressive you can be when you're at 2nd down and 4 every play, right?
Well, let's talk about Doug Peterson, because you really liked his coaching.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the things you have to overcome, and I talked about this a lot last week going into this game, is you have to overcome the Patriot mystique. And oftentimes what happens is you get to a point where you're playing pretty well, and you start playing the clock management game. Okay, we got a 10-point lead.
Atlanta,
now, if we just do this, and if we just do this, and then we can come away with a win. And Doug Peterson essentially said to his football team, guys, we've been aggressive all season long. We've been the most aggressive team in football. You know what we're going to do? We're going to keep the accelerator mashed down, and we're just going to go. And that's what they did through the entirety of this game. They never, ever slowed down. And they answered. When the Patriots came out in the first half, drove the ball 75 yards, touchdown. What did they do? They answered with a touchdown. They're like, okay, you want to play that game? You think we're just going to crumble? We're going to go 3 and out and punt? Nuh-uh. We're going to keep it pace for pace with you guys.
You've been in the Super Bowl as a favorite and an underdog. Philadelphia came in with a little bit of an underdog chip. Not only an underdog, Mark, but because they were playing a dynasty, a lot of people rooting for Philadelphia. I was in a house yesterday with all Eagle fans, except me and my wife, and I don't think she's come out of the bedroom yet. She's still haunted by this. She's a Patriot homer. So tell me, give me being a favorite, being an underdog. I'm not saying it's a huge thing, but it is something, isn't it?
Yeah, no, I don't think there's any question. So twice, Super Bowl 26, which was in Minneapolis, the Redskins versus the Bills.
Yeah.
Probably an 8-point favorite or so. Super Bowl 33, the Broncos versus the Atlanta Falcons. Probably 7.5, 8-point favorite. You know what I felt after those games were over? I didn't feel a sense of joy or accomplishment or euphoria. You know what I felt? Relief. It's really what I felt. It's like, thank goodness that was over and we didn't screw it up.
And gag on national TV.
Right, exactly. 11.5-point favorites at kickoff, 13-point favorites at the beginning of the week, or 13-point favorite, or underdogs, 11.5-point underdogs at kickoff, 13-point underdogs at the beginning of the week, the Broncos versus the Green Bay Packers. After winning that game, euphoria, just excitement.
Nobody believed in you.
Joy. We're simple creatures, man. Look at fire hot, right? I mean, you give me that underdog mentality. You give me a chip to play with on my shoulder. You don't think that doesn't drive me? And guess what? I never thought during the course of that game that we were underdogs. I never sat on the sideline and go, we'll show them, right? But during the course of the week, does it make you prepare a little bit better? Does it make you focus in and lock in a little bit better? And that's really the key. And I'll tell you another thing from a coaching standpoint.
Yeah.
In those years with Mike Shanahan, Mike Shanahan said this, that he's like, going into that game, remember Leroy Butler, just all over the place as a safety. He was down making every play, and we created an exchange on the backside. So all I'm saying is we exchanged the weak side linebacker we actually kind of designated him as the safety, and we took the safety and said he's the actual Will Backer. So we exchanged the two players, and we blocked it differently than we had blocked it all season long because Butler was making every play in the backfield. And we just gutted them on the cutback runs. He was a non-factor because we turned the weak side linebacker. We just said, hey, he's going to be loose. He's yours, wide receiver. We're going to take care of the safety. And Mike Shanahan said, going into that game, this is how we're going to gut them. We're going to gut them in the run game. They were like the number one team in the league as far as defending the run. Nobody ran it against them. And we just ate them alive. And from the very first play that we ran it, it just, folded like the Red Sea, like just parted like Red Sea.
I think you can tell, Mark, in football, when the Giants beat the Patriots the first time, New England tried to reverse on the first play. Strahan, Osi Umenyiora, Tuck blew it up.
Right.
First thing I look at Super Bowls is line play.
Right.
And my notes for the game, one of my first notes was Foles loose, Foles confident, Foles time. You could tell very early in that game, Nick's going to have time to throw. You could also tell in that game, Tom's going to have time, but he's going to have to move up in the pocket. Like 10 minutes into that game, you could see line play.
When a coach tells you this is what's going to happen, and you walk out as a player, and the very first play you run, it happens exactly like your coach tells you it's going to happen.
That's awesome.
You're like, oh, yeah, we're going to be good. We're going to be good. And you know what? Tip of the cap to Doug Peterson because they went in their bye week before they played Atlanta. They went and looked at all the old Chip Kelly stuff that Nick Foles ran when he was real good with Chip Kelly, and they amalgamated two offenses together. They took that RPO system and some of that, but a traditional style of route combination, and they put that in. And Nick Foles, for what? Now it's 8 and 3, so 11 quarters. Nick Foles has been absolutely unbelievable since the first quarter of the divisional game against Atlanta. And that's what great coaching is. You look at Doug Peterson, he out-Belichicked Belichick, right? He took a system and he said, how am I going to make my quarterback successful? How am I going to make him confident? And how is he going to have success in this playoff run? And he said, we'll change a little bit of what we do so it fits his style.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to worry about what he can't do. I'm worried about what he can do. And I'm going to put him in a position to have great success in doing the things that he can do. And that's just great coaching.
All right, two things. Let's talk about Gronk retirement. Kristine had this earlier where Gronk really paused. I don't know if we have the tape, but they asked Gronk about it. And, I've never thought, I'm not trying to be a cheap shot. I don't see Gronk as a deep thinker. He's more instinctive as an athlete and as a dude. Mm-hmm. He's jumping around all the time. But, he was asked on the podium yesterday about retirement, and he was thoughtful. He's like, I'm not ready to answer that. And let's play the tape here. This was not necessarily the way Gronk answers questions. Here it is.
I'm definitely going to look at my future, for sure. I'm going to sit down the next couple of weeks and see where I'm at.
Gronk, what would make you retire?
I'm not ready for these type of questions right now. I'm just going to look, sit down, reflect on the season.
But you're human. Was it the concussions? Is that kind of a concern to you at this point in your life?
No.
Has retirement already crossed your mind? You've actually put thought into it?
We just lost. I just want to just sit back, relax the next couple of weeks, and I really got nothing to say about that right now.
What do you make of that, Mark?
Yeah, I think everybody at the end of the season, and especially when you've had the success that he's had, you always kind of contemplate what I want to do. I've had success. I've been at the very top of my profession for a very long time.
You got some money put away.
And one thing about, and I'll tell you about Gronk, like Gronk lives off of endorsement money. Like he banks everything.
Oh, he does?
Oh, yeah. He's
Kevin Garnett in the NBA was never spent a game check.
Right. Yeah, but that's what Gronk has done very well for himself that way, and he's very smart that way. I know he comes off, like you said, as kind of a meathead and a party guy and all that stuff. But he's deeper than that. And so he's done a great job with that kind of stuff. And
would you retire Mark? He gets banged up a lot.
Sure, he's a big target, takes a lot of hits.
Would you retire if you were him?
Well, I mean, me personally, I was going to play until they essentially carted me off the field. So, I mean, that's every guy has his own reasons for, getting to that point in his life. I've always said this, and it's the thing that just shocks me, or I guess impresses me most, is a better way to put that about Brady and Belichick, is they're never sated by success. Most of the time when you have success, you get a little bit fat, you get a little bit lazy, you don't maybe want to do the work. I've always said, man, lining up on Sundays is not the problem. The problem is practicing and working Monday through Saturday.
Right.
Like, I got to the point where I don't want to do that anymore.
Well, Drew Bledsoe always says, he's like 40, he's like, I could still throw it.
Right.
He goes, my legs are tired. My shoulders hurt.
Your body's tired. Mentally, you're tired. So to be able to continue to press and grind and being at 5, hey, we've got 5 world championships, but I'm still coming in at 5, grinding through tape, and I still love it. Like, that's the most impressive thing to me about those guys.
Malcolm Jenkins, I think this is a story that's going to come out in the next 12 hours. He is a guy that plays 98% of the snaps.
Mm-hmm.
Right before the game, Malcolm Butler, excuse me, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Malcolm Jenkins, great safety for the Eagles. Malcolm Butler for New England, players are told he's out for the game. You see him very emotional on the sidelines. I don't know, man, I understand coaches having rules, and I don't know what happened, but, man, to me, my concern would be if Malcolm Butler doesn't play, how the hell does that land in the locker room, Mark?
Yeah. But see, I would look at it the other way. I think it's what makes the Patriots the Patriots. Like, when depending upon what he did, and I believe that he did something that violated a team rule.
Yes. Yeah, clearly. He had to.
Right? I mean, it doesn't seem to be an injury thing. It doesn't seem to be anything else. He did something to violate a team rule.
Yeah.
And here's the thing, the Patriots way. And I've always respected that you adhere to it. See, because, like, you sit there and you preach, we have a way of doing things. And we are accountable to one another, and we sacrifice to one another. And then all of a sudden, if you get a guy that's a really good player and you circumvent those rules, it essentially says, as an organization, what we preach to you doesn't mean anything because we don't adhere to it.
Especially in crisis and big games.
Absolutely. So yeah. I look at something like that, and I say, good for you, because most coaches would bench you for a series or bench you for 2 series, right, and then say, okay, now we need you.
Right.
I appreciate the way the New England Patriots go about their business. They're going to stick to their set of tenets that they've developed, and it's the reason that guys come there, play for less money. Guys who have been maybe problems other places go in there and they adhere to the formula because they know who's in charge, and ultimately it's about us. As Joe Gibbs used to say this all the time when I played for him in the Washington Redskins, one of the most regal people I've ever been around in my entire life. This is not about you. He would say this all the time. Lose yourself.
You don't.
It's about us, not them.
That's what Greg Popovich always says. When you're over yourself, we'll draft you.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd or go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.